has there been any testing done on them? Any carbon dating on some of that stuff? Has there been anybody looked at them? Or
I've had everybody in the world look at them, and nobody knows what they are.
Have they carbon dated them to see the age of them and all that stuff?
Nobody's carbon dated, but we could, if you know.
So I noticed that you do have some stuff there that is carbon datable. You know, that necklace deal for the rodent hands, and I think Corey told me there was some hair or something like that could be some DNA testing done on and stuff like that.
We got corn. We have corn that's in the little pots, and we have the old long corn cobs. They brought everything. It took 3 years to bring the stuff out of that cave. And the museum in Denver, Colorado has some of the tablets, and the Peabody Museum has some of the tablets.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm going to do some checking on that. Have they done any testing or anything on them?
Well, I don't know. This stuff was found in the 50s. These people were deer hunting, and this woman was out hunting arrowheads while the guys were deer hunting, and she found that pot with a head. That one that's got the horns.
Yeah.
That's what she found, and then this was a sealed up cave. It had been sealed, and they got into it, and it was full. Like I said, it took 3 years to tear it out. And everybody says it's just too pretty to not be fake, you know. But it was in there sealed up.
Wow. So how do you know this story? Did you know the people that found it, or do you know how did you end up with your stuff?
Yes, I knew the people that found it, and when the guy died, and he knew I was interested in it, and so they called me and wanted to sell me the arrowheads and stuff, and I went and looked, and they were just plain old arrowheads and stuff, you know, from around Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I asked her, I said, what about the stuff in the cave? And she said, oh, we hadn't seen that in 30 years. It's in the closet. And she said, you'll have to dig them out. I got them out, and they were in those big banana boxes.
Yeah.
And I opened it up, and I saw the black and white Anastasia pot, and that's what got me so excited. And then I bought all of it without even looking at the rest of it. Got home and the tablets, and they blew my mind. And I've had them to the Great Plains Museum, and the only guy that really has ever mentioned anything really serious about them was an archaeologist from old Mexico, and he thought they might be the Aztecs, or the Aztecs.
Ah.
And do you remember seeing the head?
Yeah.
He said that was the jaguar.
Ah. Okay.
And the axes. Did you see the axe?
Yes.
And all of those things, like I said, they're just pristine.
Yeah, it all looks pristine. So.
And every pot had something in it.
Really? What's in the pots that you had? Corn, you say, and things like that?
There's corn, and there's stuff I don't know what it is. There's stuff in them that I couldn't tell you what it was. Ground up, and they're just, like I said, and, you know, everything is, and the ivory points or the bone points, they were all in the pots.
And they're ivory?
They're what now?
You said they're ivory?
The bone points?
Yeah. Oh, they were in a pot too. They were in pots. Ah, okay. So is the woman still alive, or she passed on too?
No, they're all gone. Everybody's dead. But I have a newspaper clipping talking about it in the 50s.
Oh, really?
And it was, yeah, Cannon City newspaper did an article on them. And told a little about it. It didn't tell much about it, but it told some of it.
Cool. So did she happen to tell you where this stuff came from and all that? What area?
Yes, they told me, and I think I could find it. I hunted up there one year, but it was after they'd already found it, and I never got a chance to, go up in that area again. But I think a person could find the cave. And it's on federal property right now, but back then, it wasn't back then.
It was private. It was private property back then.
Yes, it was.
Ah, okay. So is it a tough area to get into, or?
Well, I don't know, but they deer hunted there, he said, for 30 years, and then they found it.
I'm just wondering if somebody was to try and go check the area, if there was one cave like that, there might be some other things to help lend credence of it. Is it a tough area to get to? Can you drive to it, or you got to hike into it?
Well, I guess that you could drive pretty close to it because they deer hunted up in there for years and went pretty close to it. But he has a son that's still alive, and he didn't know much about it, but he just told me, he said, Dad and them talked about that stuff, and it took them 3 years to bring it all out.
Really?
And then when they were aired, there's still a lot of that stuff that I can't buy off the people. They still have some more stuff, but they won't sell it.
Do you know who they are that still has some more stuff?
Yes. But, yeah, she's still alive, the lady is, but they won't sell the rest of it.
And the lady, is she one of the ones that was involved in finding it, or she just has it?
No, she was married to the guy that was part of it.
Oh.
Her husband.
Okay.
And I have the newspaper clippings of it. And it tells, all about it, and they donated some up to the Peabody Museum and to the Denver National History Museum. And I called them, and they said, well, we wouldn't know where that stuff is. It's been so long, it's probably down in the basement.
Ah. So we need to try and track that down, but I see you got some things, to try and get provenience on it, because it's been out of the ground, we don't know where it came from, and people are going to say, there's no way this stuff is real, that it's from here. But if we can do some carbon dating on it, try and figure out the type of bones, different things like that, it might give some clues to some things, So,
right.
So, and if we can't drive to the area, I have access to a helicopter. We can fly the area and search and get dropped off and things like that. So,
right.
So,
well, I think we could get pretty darn close to it. And like I said, the boy told me something about it. See, I was in high school when he brought that head to school, and I think I was about 17. And he brought that head to school, and that's when I got real interested in all that. And he told me all about Daddy and them finding all that stuff.
Really?
Uh-huh. But then he died, and that's when his wife called me and asked me if I was interested in Daryl's stuff, and I said, sure, I'd like to come and see. And so I did. I bought the 3 boxes of stuff, and it took me about 2 weeks to go through all of it. There's so much stuff in it.
Wow.
And this is all out of the cave. Everything here is out of the cave.
Wow.
But if you'd be interested in coming down and looking at it, you're welcome to come.
I definitely am interested in coming and looking at it, maybe even bringing an archaeologist with me, maybe.
Yeah.
If that'd be all right. And then, but I'd like to also, try and get names of the people that still own some stuff, just so I can kind of get a general idea of what they have and what it looks like, and see if I can just try to put together a picture of what went on, because whoever them people were, you know, they're not your regular Native American Indians. They're somebody else, something, you know, something unique, something different went on, and that's what interests me. You know, out of place archaeology, out of place history, and what you have is that.
Yeah, the Limpy New. You ever heard of those?
The what?
Limpy Lemu. The Indian.
Yeah,
the red record. You ever heard of that?
No, I've heard of the Wallum Olam and the.
Yeah, William Olam.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, those people were over in that area.
Ah.
And, you know, in the Delaware, we're in that area. And, you know, this guy, I was telling you about the one that was in Old Mexico. I go to these artifact shows all the time. We have a big one in Temple, Texas. And a lot of the all of these archaeologists come and everything, and I showed them to them, and only one was really interested in it. And he said that they aren't from here. He said they've been carried up into that area.
Ah. Well, you know, I can see why the archaeologists wouldn't be interested in it, because they think it's a fraud, or that, you know, no way it could have been from this area, you know, that it's from overseas or something like that, because it just doesn't fit the Native Americans, you know. But, you know, there's been a lot of stuff like that found, not exactly like that, but different things, you know, that just don't fit. And there was, you know, a different culture of people here than what we know. And the Lenni Lepi, I've been tracking down, they had a pictorial language system. You know, I've been tracking down some hieroglyphs that scattered across the western United States, written in out-of-the-way places, but I didn't see any of that type of hieroglyphics on your plates or anything.
You know, I've got that book, and I've been reading that book, and I'm trying to find those symbols on it. I've never found one of the symbols on any of that book, and I'm still in that book reading it now. Ah,
okay.
And, but the symbols, they did not match it. That little triangle with the two, it's a triangle with the little lines coming out of it.
Uh-huh.
I found that in another book, and it represents the morning star.
Ah.
And, but that's about the only thing. And then I had some people once thought it might have been the Mormons coming through that did that.
Ah.
But I don't believe it, you know.
I don't think so either. They'd you know, the figures on the plates aren't anything that they would have done. You know, if the Mormons done it, they'd have done it to try and make it look like their Book of Mormon stuff, you know, what they think their writings was, and that doesn't look like anything like that. So I don't believe that either.
What I've gathered so far from it, that the guy, he could reproduce. You know, he's a hermaphrodite, and he has the breast. You know, he could feed many nations or many families.
Ah, so it's kind of a symbolism type deal, yeah?
Right. And that's what I've gathered after all these years of studying them and fooling with them. But, I had an archaeologist at the Great Plains Museum. It's a woman, and she was real interested in it and tried to locate those other tablets, but never had any luck in finding any of it.
Ah.
But it's still out there. It's in the museum somewhere, and they said it's probably down in the basement. You just have to come and look. But I never got the time to go and look.
So how do you know they was donated to the Denver Museum? You got a newspaper article that says that, or you got a statement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that newspaper clipping tells about it, what they did with some of it.
Okay. Does it have pictures in that newspaper article? Does it have some pictures of some of the stuff?
No, not like that. It just tells the story of them finding it and what it was, and they donated. And, you know, I hadn't read the story in a long time. I kind of forgot all about it, but they said it. They had archaeologists look at it too, but no one knew what it was.
Right.
That they couldn't identify.
Yep.
But you know, the stuff in the Grand Canyon,
Yes.
it could be something like that stuff, you know, that's down there.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
But if you're, like I said, real interested in checking them out, well, we'll work together on them, like I said.
I am interested in checking them out. I'm with a group called the Ancient Historical Research Foundation, and so let me run up by them and see what we can do to try and figure out who these people are, kind of dated or something like that.
But we can date it, if you want.
Yeah, I would like to date it. I'd like to know what kind of animals, were involved with the bones. But I'd like to know how old they are, And so you have some stuff there that is dateable. But the corn and stuff like that, that doesn't really say anything. It's unique people or anything. It'd be, I'd like to figure out, man, who these people were, where they came from, who they were.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Because they're out of place. So your thoughts, you've obviously researched it and studied it for a long, long time. Who do you think they were?
I couldn't tell you. I have no idea, but that one in Old Mexico, he said that head was the jaguar, and he knew about the jaguar, and he said those people were Mayans. He said they were all up through Colorado, back and forth.
Ah.
And so it could have been the Mayans carried them up here and died and then buried that old boy. And that one tablet, where there's on the back of it, it's a big eagle, and there's a body laying on the slab, and you can see his hair hanging off the slab.
Yeah.
And then it's got that prairie chicken on it on one side. And I was reading in that book, about how prolific the prairie chickens were, and they were symbols of those Indians.
Ah, okay.
But I've got stuff that he didn't take pictures of,
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've got stuff that's in those cases. He didn't take pictures of all of it.
Ah.
He just took some of it.
Yeah. Well,
But I saw that head in the 50s when this old boy brought that head to school. And that's the first time I saw it, and that's when I found out about the cave.
And you say it was their boy who brought the head to school? It was their boy?
Yes.
And he's still alive?
No, he's died. He's the one that wound up with the collection, and he died.
Oh. Who is you saying? You saying somebody that knows about it's still alive?
His wife is still alive, but she don't really know a whole hell of a lot either, because I questioned her and asked her, and she said she couldn't tell me a whole lot about it.
Ah, okay. All right.
It was a woman that found the cave, actually, or found that pot with a head, and then they got to hunting and found that cave and broke into it.
Ah. Cool.
And he took a lot of that stuff back and put it back in the cave. He was having bad luck, and he thought it was due to that. So he took a bunch of it back, his boy said. Then his daddy took it back and put it back in the cave.
Really?
Yeah.
So they didn't give you an idea? Well, I guess they did. They said it took 3 years to get everything out, so there must have been a huge amount of stuff there.
Yes. And, they'd go deer hunting up there every year, and they'd always bring some of it out, I guess, by that time. And he also said that I have another friend here that has a war club that was part of that collection, and I've only seen pictures of it, but it's like a hand holding a ball.
Really?
A stone, and it was they grew it into a tree, and then they carved it.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And But she's got other stuff that they won't part with. They won't even talk about selling it. I tried to buy it all.
Would they let people look at it, you think?
Well, I don't know. She's a funny person. She thinks somebody might break in and steal it.
Oh, yeah. How did they knew the same people? I guess then, or?
They were related. It was their husband. Her husband's daddy found it in his niece.
Ah, okay.
And I have the newspaper clipping. If I can look at it, I'll get Corey to send you a picture of it.
Yeah, do that. What?
About all of it.
I'm definitely interested to see what's going on there, because that's not something that's an everyday thing that you can look at. Son, would you do an interview for me to let people hear the story about this and kind of see what was found in that? Would you do an interview for me?
Yeah, we probably could go talk to the lady.
Cool.
She's getting on up in age, and she may not be here much longer.
Ah, so I need to hurry up and get there.
Yeah, you need to hurry.
Okay. Man, I'm excited. Thanks. Tell Corey thanks for getting a hold of me, and thanks for you calling me back.
Yeah, well, we talked to another guy that does that research and stuff, and he said, when we sent it to him, he said, that's way out of my expertise.
Ah, yep.
And I can't remember his name, but he's had those TV shows.
Oh, was that Scott Walters?
That may have been.
Yeah, is that America Unearthed, that geologist guy?
I think that's the one.
Okay, yeah.
But he says it was way out of his league. He had no idea what it was.
Okay, well, neither do I, but man, we can try and narrow down some things. We can try and get a date on it of how old it is, and then go from there, you know?
Yeah, well, we can carbon date it. I've got so much stuff that we can carbon date that's in those pots.
Cool.
And we could take a piece off of that. Those plaques have been ceremonial killed. Everything in there has been killed. They have a hole in them or a piece broke off them. You notice the head on that pot, that one horn's been knocked off of it.
Oh.
Everything was ceremonial killed.
So what does that mean? Does that mean the person's passed away that owned it, or what would that mean?
Yes, that's what it was. And most of this stuff was burial stuff, I'm sure, because it's just in too pristine condition, you know, to be laid out on, and it wasn't laying out on the ground, it's sealed up because, and we have these authenticators down here. I don't know if you ever heard of Dwayne Rogers.
I haven't.
Well, anyway, he's a big authenticator down in Texas and around here. He says they're fake, and I said, well, what makes you such an authority on them? He says they're in too good a shape, and someone's made those. I said, hell yeah, someone made it. If they were really an artist, weren't they?
Yeah.
You know, even if they're only 1,000 years old, it's great art.
Heck yeah. So that's why, I'd like to figure out a date on them. I don't know if there's any way we can date the pots or the tablets or anything like that. You know, I don't know that there's any way of dating that, but there is some of that other stuff.
Yeah, like what's in those pots, you know, it could be cornmeal, and I have lamps. They're just bunches. I've got bunches of the little oil lamps.
Is there anything inside those oil lamps?
Yes, everything's got stuff in them.
Is it still like resin from the oils, or is it something else?
Yes.
So we could maybe date that. That could maybe be dated.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I've got stuff that could be dated.
Cool. Well, that would tell you, if we could date that stuff in the oil lamp and get an old date on that, then they can't say that, you know, that thing's modern, I would think, you know. So, man, I'm kind of excited about this.
Right. Well, it's something to get excited. When you see them in person, you'll know what I mean. You can't imagine you can't really get the graphic scope of it until you get them in your hand and look at them.
Yeah.
And turn them over. And like I said, I've got the clipping where it's talking about them. You know, it was found on the north slope of the Rocky Mountains, and it's right up around the Royal Gorge. You know where the Royal Gorge Bridge is?
No, I don't.
Well, it's in Colorado, and it's up in that area.
Is that what the newspaper article says?
Yes, it talks about stuff like that.
So how did you figure out the area? By talking to the when you bought them, they kind of give you kind of told you where it was found, kind of, or how did you kind of figure out where you figure they are?
When I saw that head when I was 17, I'm 77 now, and when I saw him when I was in high school, and I asked him, I said, "Where'd you get these?" And he said, "Dad and them found a cave when they were deer hunting." And then he told me about all that other stuff. And then he told me the story about when he started having those bad things happening to him, that he hauled a bunch of it back and put it in the cave.
Ah.
So if a guy could, you know, it may be that the cave's already been found again and plundered again.
Possible, yeah.
And then it could be that they're still out there, you know, that could be found. I've always wanted to go up there and hunt, but I just never got a chance to go.
Well, let me...
But if you're interested in doing a little hunting and searching, I think we could do some of it.
Yep, I am, and I could possibly get us a helicopter so we could kind of cover a lot of area or move quickly to different areas and
right.
Do some things like that, get some ground penetrating radar and do some scanning for caves and things like that. So, yeah.
Well, you get ready to do any of that, and I've got a hell of a collection that we didn't show you of American Indians.
Ah.
And I had some stuff out of Old Mexico too that we used to go to Old Mexico 3 or 4 times a year, my son and I, and hunt, and we brought back lots of stuff from down there.
Really?
Different, yeah, artifacts and pots and stuff.
Cool.
Matatis and manos and axes. I've got a hell of an axe collection.
Ah. Well, yeah, bet I do. I want to come see it.
Like I said, I've met a lot of archaeologists through these little artifact shows I go to, and I've been going there for 20 years. And I've took the artifacts and showed them, and everybody was real interested except for one old authenticator said they were fake.
So let me ask you this, because obviously you're an expert on this type of stuff because you collect it, you've hunted it, you know what you're looking at, you know kind of, can you tell if fake arrowheads and fake pots and things like that?
Sure, yes I can.
And so in your opinion, looking at this stuff, it's not fake, it's real, huh? It's old.
It's old and it's real, or I would have never bought it.
Cool.
I've had a lot of chance to buy lots of artifacts, and I wouldn't buy them because I knew they weren't real.
Cool.
But I do have some stuff that is fake, but it was made in the 20s and 30s.
Ah.
And I got, this guy's real famous. His name is, just a minute, my memory's terrible anymore. But, he made these big old huge points. And I remember when they used to have curio shops up and down Highway 66?
Yep.
Well, we were kids and we'd go out through all of those places going to California and Arizona and out to Grand Canyon and stuff like that. We'd always stop and we'd buy some of this stuff, you know. But they're real valuable now today. You know, people are collecting his stuff.
Ah, cool. And you can tell his stuff, you can tell it's more modern, you can tell.
Right, and I know a guy that can make arrowheads better than the Indians can. because he uses diamond tools, and he uses all that kind of stuff, and I meet him every year at that artifact show. If you're really interested in seeing a bunch of really nice stuff, there's probably $1 billion worth of stuff in that show every year.
Really?
Yeah, everything you can imagine.
So I'm just curious how, because I know, of course, I don't deal in it. I look at the stuff and I think it's cool, but I don't know, How
right.
can you tell a modern arrowhead from an authentic one? Is there
how they feel.
It's
how they feel. How they feel. I've got stuff that is so finely polished and laying out on the ground for 15,000 years.
Oh, I got you. So from because they're old, they've kind of wore down, weathered, smoothed out from the modern, and then it's more a little bit rougher.
Yes, and you can feel them. You can feel them.
I
met this guy at this artifact show, and his name is Bob. And I took a Folsom Point down there and showed it to him one time. And he was holding it, he never looked at it. And he was holding it and feeling of it and rubbing on it. He said, "Oh, this is really nice, LD." He said, "This is really a nice point." And he told me what it was, which I'd already knew. And I got to looking, and I couldn't figure out why he wasn't looking at it. He was holding it, and they said, "Oh, Bob's blind."
Oh.
They called it Blind Bob, but he was an authenticator.
Really?
Yeah, he'd feel them and tell you what they were and how they looked, if they was real or not.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, LD, I don't know when I can get away to come meet you, but man, I want to do it sooner than later. So,
yeah.
Man, thank you for talking to me, and I'm excited because, you're an authenticator, and you're with your expertise, you're saying this stuff is real. That means a lot to me because I wouldn't have no idea,
Yeah, well, like I said, I've been hunting these arrowheads since I was 13 years old, and we found lots of them. And I've found graves, out where they washed out of the lake, and they were just laying there. I found a woman one time. She had one arrow, and she was buried with her horse, and you could see the bones of both of them, laying there.
Really?
Yeah, and the arrowhead was laying there with her.
Did they say there was any skeletons or anything in this cave, or?
He never mentioned any skeletons. He never mentioned anything about any bodies or anything.
Okay.
But I'm sure there had to be.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be on government property. I think they said now.
So.
But,
with this being that much stuff in this cave, what do you think this was? Do you think it was more of a storage area than a... Do I still got you?
I didn't understand you. You're breaking up a little bit.
Okay. In this cave where you said there was so much of this stuff, do you think it was
like a tomb?
Do you think it was a tomb, or do you think it was a storage area or stuff, or do you think it was a big tomb, or this wasn't?
I think it was more of a tomb.
So this wasn't.
That's what I thought it was.
It's
the way they talk.
It's not a regular burial. This isn't a regular burial. This was a tomb of somebody important, maybe.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And when you look at these tablets, this guy, I have 3 different tablets, and they're all broke up. They're broke, but they're not broke bad.
Yeah.
But I have a little one. You saw the little bitty one?
Yeah.
The little pieces all together there. Now that's exactly the same person on there, and they're holding a bundle with a big bird on the top, and it's wrapped in a bundle. And so it's a burial, I'm sure.
Okay.
But I figured out the best I can figure on it was that this guy was really important. And I read someplace one time or heard that, they always ask, was God male or female? And that, they don't know. And like these things here, this thing here, he has a penis, and the other one's the man, you know, it's got the vagina. And he could take care of.
I seen that.
He could take care of his, you know, he could give birth. You know, he could take care of himself either way, or herself.
Yeah.
And the breast, you know, could supply much milk to all the other tribes and all of the other families, you know.
So this was somebody really, really important.
Yes, it was very important, you know.
Yeah.
But you just have to see them, and I'm real interested in letting you look at them and coming and checking them out. We might could do a hell of a story on them.
Yep, I think so. But at the very least, man, I'd like to figure out who these people were, because they're not your regular Native Americans.
No, but the Lenny Lenape weren't regular either. They migrated in from over the bridge, the ice bridge, you know, Siberia.
Ah.
And I have been up in there in that country before. I used to work on an icebreaker, and we'd go all up through there.
Ah.
And I've been all up in that country, all up to the North Pole before.
Cool.
And I worked on that icebreaker. I was the polar bear guard. I kept the bears off the scientists.
Really?
That was my job.
That was probably an interesting job.
It was. I made three different trips, and we went all over. I even got to drive that ship, the Polar Sea.
Really? Cool.
Yeah. I got some interesting pictures.
Man, cool.
But I'd like to meet you. What was your name?
My name's Terry Carter, and man, I really want to meet you.
Terry Carter. Okay.
Terry with a T, yeah, Terry, Terry Carter.
Terry Carter. Okay, I can remember that. And I got your phone number here. Hell, I might, when I get in there and start looking at them again, I'll call you and we can look at them on the phone.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Well, I'll give you a shout back later on, Terry.
Hey,
and we'll look at them.
Thanks, LD. Right now I'm driving home. I got an 8-hour drive, but yeah, I'd love to.
Well, you try to get down here before that old gal dies.
I will.
We'll go sit down and talk to her.
How much stuff? How much stuff do you think she has?
She's got a big old frame of stuff, and it's like 6 foot tall and probably 6-7 feet wide.
Wow.
Big frame of stuff.
Cool.
But there's still so much out there in those museums that we need to locate.
Yep, I 100%, man. I'm going to see if I can't get somebody on that.